Yeah, so my topic will be about typography mimicry. And then, first, let's go through what our current research has talked about. So back in like 10 years ago, Thomas has given the name visual accent. I think it's pretty obvious. And Sutherland has given his own definition, mapping design features and graphics to the base writing system, but remaining legibility. And then Meletius also gave his own, similarly to Sutherland, but it's more like typeface design. There is a source script, such as like Roman script, and then there is a target script like Chinese or other language, and then you immute visual features of that script. And then there's the paper I want to mention, which is called Novic Pool. It's about how the Norwegian letter /o was borrowed in English to reflect this Scandinavian lifestyle. So, and so what my investigation is about, since there are already many talks about how the Latin is mimicking these non-Latin scripts, what's the other way around? What is non-Latin scripts mimicking each other or mimicking the Latin typographically? So first example I want to show is actually I took on the back of my hometown in Wuhan, and it's a Xinjiang cuisine restaurant sign. And it's not spelled, but the letter itself is mimicry the Tibetan script, which I also showed here. However, it is not spelled in Tibetan food, it's spelled in Xinjiang. So there is also like a misdirection here. So, and I found later on the font is called Tibetan style Han, and it's designed by one of the Typographic, and it has also won some prizes. In the website, it has given very explanatory examples how they did the mimicry. For example, the starting stroke and the system of the lettering. It's all based on how the Tibetan, for example, the bamboo pen and everything. And the next example is, it's interesting. It's professor from Tokyo, Rika Yamashita. She sent me the example. It was a local Indian shop called Ambika, and they sell Indian food in Tokyo. And the shop staff was writing the signs like for this everything in the style of Indian script, and it's readable in Japanese. And this magazine is called Dance You, and in 2021 August issue, they did an interview, and they even showed you here a demonstration how step by step she or he was writing it. It became a little bit famous. And the title here of the magazine is called Indian Style Decorated Letters, the Fascinating Ambika Letters. And there are also the cover page in this feature in the magazine, which also use the same lettering. And I was contacting the editors, and they say, oh, we are surprised that students in Prague are interested in our letters, and we would love to talk about with you guys. So we will be able to have like a little chat later on. And another questions I also want to do a little investigation is, what are the typographic and graphic strategies are used to achieve such mimicries? So the first category I use is graphic drawing. And so here are 3 photos. They are all using the iconic script features from different languages. The central one is a poster for in Prague train station that I told. It's for a fairy tale story that a Czech doctor helped a princess from the Far East, and it's featuring the top bar from, for example, Indian language. And there is a restaurant on the corner, Ekant. So Ekant is a word in Indian, and they also featured the stroke on the top. And I also talked with the designer. She said to me she used the font that has this already in it, and she was adding some Czech diacritic so that it's localized. And then on the corner, there's a logo of a Thai curry that I found in the grocery shopping, and it is featuring this hook of the Thai languages. So, and this one's categories, I say diacritic boring is also part of the first category. Actually, I added the photo yesterday because it was near my hotel. There is this Romanian restaurant, and it has used this little coma, not coma, but I say coma on the bottom of the T. It's from the Romanian language, and they use it for the English word traditional. And the Romanians is in their own Romanian languages. And here, this photo is sent by Dr. Martin Len. He gave us a lecture about his linguistic landscape research. And this photo is from the place called Jaffa. And they are using Hebrew and also other languages in the logo. And the letter A, he was talking about the graffiti in the middle in his research. And I was focusing on the dash under the A and this you can say umlaut, but of course not. And this I confirmed with him also is from the language of Hebrews. This group is the more typical alphabetical substitution. So also this colleague sent me this Volta bar in Leipzig, and they switched the letter here. Obviously, it's from Cyrillic. And this one is a fridge magnet from Berlin, also sent by a colleague of mine. And she said that look on the bottom, here's the gluten appetite, but it's written in the switching the letters of the Cyrillic as well. And there are some also pictures featuring, this is like the Arabic airline services. They here this letter A is obviously featured in both the stroke line and flow of the Arabic. And here is the sigma in the Greek. It's a poster for my Greek wedding. So this example is sent by a professor who's teaching in Hong Kong, and she sent me this title, Hong Kong Museum of Art. And I believe many of you know Xu Bing, and he has here customized for them a title, Hong Kong Museum of Art Connect Art to People. And you can actually read each letter in the characters, H, O, N, G. So every character here looking like Chinese, but they are built of English letters. And so I call it compositional layout boring because they are trying to look like Chinese, not because of the stroke or brush, but because of how the blocks are building together in a square like. And yeah, this one, as I was talking earlier with another colleague I met here, this is one of the local shop I took pictures in Prague, and they're featuring several fonts, and two of them is identity signifying typeface, as I said. And here on the top here, it's using this like Cyrillic featured fonts, but it's written in Czech. And here is also Czech. It's about the telephone number or something, and it's written in the black letter style. So I took a picture because it's such a collage of all kinds of fonts, and two of them is not like Czech typical fonts. And here are some other examples of mimicries. This one is like Chinese mimicry Mongolian letters, and this one is the logo mark from the outdoor brand in Czech selling outdoor tools. So during the study, I was talking with these designers. How did they design these mimicries? How did they operate? And this poster was a filmed movie poster for, what was the name of Tracy? Well, this family of three, they're living in Prague. They're from what's the country name? Ireland? Okay, so they are using Arabic in their language, and in this poster, when I asked him about the letterings, he said to me, he started with actually the right layout. So just to mimic the Arabic reading flow from right to left, which is doable in Latin languages as well, but not as conventional. And the second thing he did is this diacritic swiping. So the diacritic above R and the E here is supposed to be in the Czech language head check, with like a hook, and he switched it to the Arabic calligraphic mark. And the last thing he did is to adjust the bottom baseline conventions so that the lettering is not it's readable for the people. So he said to me that I want to add some depth or link through the typography. But I wanted to show a constructive contrast example where it's not typically the commercial stereotyping as we know about these fonts or mimicries. So this is a book after belonging. It's a cover of the publication. It's about it's an Oslo architecture trial in 10 years ago. And the book is arguing about our traditional definition of home is broken. Instead of rooting in one physical house or country, our sense of belonging is now shaped by constant movement, global networks, and temporary status. So it makes sense that she's using all the diacritics or glyphs from other languages. So the designer is Megan Behan, and when I was talking with her, before we start the interview, but there's the example in the book. So this talks about a bar in the Soviet border camp. They allowed visa-free access to Nordic citizens, so that during that 59 days, the people from Norway can go to this bar without any visa. And so this is like one example in the book that I want to talk about. So Megan told me that they didn't use this lettering in every single part of the book because it will look like spam and nobody will like to read it. So they only use it in the subtitles or the section titles. And she first said to me that they used like a custom code so that can generate and allocate randomly these accents and diacritics and symbols from different languages to the text layout. So it's not static, but constantly change. And another thing which is interesting because typically we spoke about the paper Nordic tool that they like to use the /o in some other English words, but here she completely omit the letter /o in the whole book because they do not want the audience to associate with the project to the Nordic languages at all. So she said to me, it looks foreign, but it's foreign to everybody. So in this example, the mimicry was not used to identify a certain culture, but instead it served to synchronize with the space or identity that feels universal and inclusive to all the cultures. This is like an example from graphic design studio in Prague. It's probably the most prestigious graphic design studio there. And this is the poster, two of them, but one is in Dresden and one is in Prague that I took. They are using, if you can notice here, the strokes are borrowed from Hebrews and Arabic as well. And in the German version, there, of course, this is like German language, and in the Czech, they add like diacritics and everything, but there is changes. For example, in the letter M, they somehow did different changes. So the next example I wanted to speak about is because in Czech Republic, it's a lot of Vietnamese were living there and making a living. So we eat pho almost every other day. And the chain restaurant called Polevka is the letter of pho with Polevka, which is Czech and Vietnamese. And the letter E with a tile here is not, the tile is not from Czech, it's from Vietnamese. So that the owner of this restaurant said to me that our goal is to symbolically connect the Vietnamese food with the Czech environment, not at the cuisine, but also at the visual communication. So basically this tile here is acting as a bridge, cultural bridge between the two languages. So I also interviewed and talked with several font designers of foreign looking fonts, and one of them is Harold. Harold said to me that he found his fonts, which is it's an Arabic looking font called Alhambra. He found when he was traveling in Morocco, it was printed on a shirt that the logos were selling. He was like telling me he was really happy to see it was in use. And when I asked him about the opinion on cultural appropriation, and he said to me, well, this is difficult. It was never his intention to make fun of anyone. And his design of letters coming out of the love for the letters and appreciation for other cultures. And if there is examples of the other way around, when a Chinese looking like Latin, he'd love to see that. So yeah, so and I asked all of the designers the same questions. They all kind of give me their impressions. So the last part, it will be about the user of typographic mimicry, because in previous study, it seems to me that the typographic mimicry happens mostly in restaurant signs or bistro signs. But what I found here during my data is there are also people from a little bit of institutional level are using it. So this logo is the official tourism branding for Ethiopia tourism. So they are using, obviously you can see there is things that is not normal to the, not authentic in the Latin alphabets. The Tito in the letter I and the stroke in the T are from their this language called Get. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Yeah, and another example I found to me that's interesting that in the paper note of Egyptian 20-pound note, there is on the top corner, you can see the central banks of Egypt is using obviously the mimicry of Kufic Arabic. So I was kind of surprised that they also used it. Yeah, so before I end, I want to thank my supervisor for his help during my research, Marianne Sloboda, and thank you very much.
Alicia, questions, please? Maybe I could start with one. You spoke to a lot of designers of the work you showed us. Did you speak to many in the language communities to whom that work is, in theory, addressing, such as Hebrew speakers, Arabic speakers, who see this mix? And what do they think of it? Is this bridge created, which I guess the Czech restaurant owner had suggested was the aim?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to speak with the specific language, but when I was interviewing the designer of the, for example, this poster, and I asked him, have you ever have any feedback from the Arabic speakers, how they think of these letterings? And he says, oh, unfortunately, like the people he talked with like this design, they all like it, but I didn't spoke with the Arabic speaker. So, but it would be interesting to definitely reach out to them and to know how they perceive this.
Out of curiosity, I mean, how do you perceive that when you see something similar happening with Chinese characters?
Well, for example, the typical Chinese looking font, monotone or Mandarin, I don't look at them like they don't look Chinese to me at all. Like they're supposed to look like Chinese, but I don't see any Chinese from them. So I don't like them, but it's not because that like the cultural side of things. It's more like the aesthetic. I think they're kind of in a bad aesthetic way. But I kind of really interested in this example that they handwrite in it and they combine the letter of Indian and Japanese in this colorful artistic way. It adds a little bit of like the artistic side to it. So for me, it's something interesting that how he come up with this idea, since there are some kind of fonts already, but he decides to handwrite everything, so.
If I comment, I don't know if Fernando is in the room.
Absolutely.
Totally get your own. One of the speakers at the conference is based in Saudi Arabia. She's doing her PhD looking at by scriptal publications in Saudi. One of the areas of research involves the, let's say, the education trajectory, the professional trajectory of those local designers. And what is very interesting that after the generation, quite a few of them study abroad. So then familiarize with certain use of the Latin script that is also seen as a mark of professional, let's say, mastery, competence, blah, blah, whatever you want. So these people tend to re-import back into their native environment a facility with modifying forms that some from the outside might have the apprehension that Victor had. And he said, oh, this could be framed as colonialism. But then they might think, I'm doing it from the inside. I own this script. I also own the products of my education influences. You don't get to tell me what I do with it. So it may be a case of the slightly academic view from the outside going, I'm going to chimwag a bit about this. For somebody else might see it as a reflection of a much more dynamic relationship with the scripts that is mediated through the bilingual and biscriptal education. She's around, she will have interesting things to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it's because actually most of the examples of these mimicries are used by the people themselves. Like people who open this restaurant is from Xinjiang, and I think I asked one of I asked for example, this econ restaurant. I asked him, do you like this font? Do you like this combination of two languages? He said, oh yeah, it's cool, and I absolutely like it. And I think if you are a designer yourself and you have the knowledge of both languages, it's much interesting to see the hybrid of that combination. And I absolutely agree with what you said. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the fascinating talk. Yeah, I'm from Japan, and sometimes I see Japanese restaurants with mimicry signs, looking like Japanese, but never look like the real stuff. And as a native from that part of the world, I try to avoid that kind of restaurants because I know it's authentic. But my question was, so yeah, perhaps relating to your point, but who is it for? Who is the mimicry for? And who else, or maybe who isn't it for? Is my question. So, what kind of message is being communicated by the use of?
And do you? Oh, you said you don't like this type of mimicry.
I like it. I get entertained. But if I'm choosing a Japanese restaurant for my guest, for example, I wouldn't go into that place with
Yeah.
mimicry sign. So yeah.
Yeah, typically these signs, as you said, they are oriented for local, like if a Czech here, the Indian restaurant here is meant for the Czech people. So they see it, okay, this is reminding me of Indian. So it's meant for the locals, not meant for Indian, because they would write in Indian script already. But for the non-Indian speakers, they don't know Indian language, but when they see this, they already catch that sense of like Orientalism. They don't need to read the letter themselves. They catch this line, they see, okay, it's an Indian food. So for them, it's more about like a combination of visual help to tell them what it is about. So yeah.
Questions? Maybe I could ask one really big question is, what's the direction of travel here? So is this hybridity perhaps used in evidence to a greater and greater extent? Where is it going? Where's it going to end up?
Yeah, I'm a little scared of this question. Because of course, this is a PhD study, so it will end up, of course, in some time. And I will not like travel all, because all of my examples are, half of them are sent by people who are in different places. So I will not, I would like to collect examples from like other writing system, which I didn't cover here, but I will not like, it will not be like covering all geographic places. I will always circle it down to an extent that I could be able to finish.
Yeah. But what are the implications for the writing systems in the future as this hybridity happens?
I'm sorry?
What are the implications for the writing systems from this hybridity? How is it affecting them as they potentially import hybrid form into their use? Is there a long-term effect of this?
I think that the effects are happening even from before, like, for example, the Chinese, this might not be like typical mimicry, the Chinese used to write top down. And then when there is a time they need to bring Chinese and English together, Chinese start to write like English. So this is not like mimicry per se, but it's kind of influence between, because you need to hybrid languages. And I think this type of mimicry, I think they are like extending the creativity of how you can combine languages together. Like if you think about multilingual design, it's sort of multilingual by itself because it's one language, but also another language. So that's
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Lucia. And we can, for Lucia, round of applause.